Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name's Amy and I spend my life teaching online lessons and courses, teaching children everywhere, all around the world, and children in the UK as well. And today is a review of our English Stars class, which took place today, which is December 18th at 10:30. And we started off, I'm using my green screen, and we started off looking at this picture behind me. It's a very busy picture, and the first thing the children had to do in the lesson was just write down as many things that they can see in the picture as possible. I did move around like this. We had a real variation in the amount of things that the children found. So some children found like 20 things, and they were able to write down 20 things in 1 minute. Others were able to write down less than that. And I always encourage the children to not compare themselves to others in the group, but just next time, just try and beat their score. So if they got 10 this week, they found 10 words in this picture, next time with an equally busy picture, maybe they could find 11. So this was our starting activity. And let me share my screen with you now. So this is not, I'm not going to do any big editing with this video. This is just a little review of what we did. Let's have a little look. Right. Okay, so we're starting off a new topic in our English Stars group, and this is all about nonsense literacy, so nonsense poetry and nonsense writing. And to know about nonsense literacy and nonsense poetry, you need to know about Edward Lear. He was the pioneer. He was the beginning person who kind of really invented nonsense poetry. And Edward Lear was quite an interesting guy. He was born around about 1812 into a really big family. He was brought up by his sister, and he never went to school. He was educated at home. So he was home educated, and he wrote a lot of nonsense poetry. This is one of his books here. And if you go to the library today, you can find anthologies of his work. You can find his work. It's pretty much easy to find. I got a book quite recently about all of his limericks that he wrote. Yeah, really interesting. The Owl and the Pussycat was one of his songs that he did as well. Right, let's have a little look then. And we started off today by talking about this word nonsense and what actually is nonsense. What does it mean? And the children were really good. They came up with words like when things are made up, something being false, when something's not true. Okay, often with nonsense, there's kind of like a little bit of humor in there as well. We kind of feel that it's not serious, it's kind of like a bit of a funny kind of vibe to it. And then the first thing that we did, and you can do this now, is we looked at these 3 different ovals, red, yellow, and green, and we wanted to have a go of making a nonsense word, okay, just a pure nonsense word. So we're going to choose a phoneme from this, and then a group of vowels from this, and then we're going to end with a kind of consonant or another kind of phoneme at the end. Okay, so you can choose any one. The first one that we came was feel, so using these like this, and just having to play around with the language. Once you've made a word, try and have a go of defining what it means. This is the kind of fun part. I made a dreef, and I thought a dreef might be some kind of fish. I kind of thought about this word reef, and then I thought, oh, a dreef might be a fish. We came up with kloob and a droof and a feel. Let's have a look what you come up with as well. So you can have a go of writing in the comments and telling us your nonsense word and what it means. Okay, so we talked about nonsense on the word level. Now, there's also nonsense that can be real words that are put together to make stories or poems that don't make any sense. So there's different ways we can have nonsense. We can have pure nonsense words like this, or we can have groups of real words put together to make a completely nonsense story. So it's kind of like, it differs. And I was telling the children in the lesson that when I was young and I was at school, I had a friend who was also called Amy. And me and Amy, we had our own Amy language where we made up kind of nonsense words that only her and I knew about. And this is actually not uncommon for people to do. Maybe you in your family have got a word that you use with your children or with your friends. Maybe you do this with your friends and you have a word. I'd love to know about it. So you can have a little write in the comments and tell me about your nonsense word. So somewhere we've all seen nonsense is right in the beginning when we were really young. nursery rhymes. This one in particular is just full of nonsense. Although the words themselves are not really nonsense, the overall kind of idea is pretty nonsensical. So we've got hey diddle diddle. This is kind of a nonsense word, isn't it? Diddle. The cat and the fiddle. The cow jumped over the moon. The little dog laughed to see such fun, and the dish ran away with the spoon. So complete nonsense, completely nonsensical things happening. You can read your own meaning into it, but it doesn't really have any kind of fixed meaning. Right, we talked about Edward Lear a little bit already, and we talked at this point in the lesson about him with the children, and then we moved on to look at some of his work. So Edward Lear, not only did he write nonsensical poems, he also drew some really wild pictures in his books as well. And I thought I would just show you some of these because they're pretty cool. Let's have a little look at this. One of the boys in the class read this out so beautifully. Fisgigus fish, who always walked about on stilts because he had no legs. Okay, and there he is. And this is another one. I think this was an old lady who had a long nose, this one. Yeah, really, really cool, really interesting. Okay, so moving on to the first thing that the children had to do in the class, and you feel free to pause the video to take longer to look at this if you want to, and then you can join in with the activity. Edward Lear. A was once an apple pie. Piedy, widey, tidy, piedy, nice and sidey, apple pie. B was once a little bear. Berry, wary, hairy, berry, takey carey, little bear. Now what Edward Lear's done here is he's mixed nonsensical words with real words to make some kind of rhyme. So you can take the next letter if you like. Let's take C. So C was once a little cake. Cakey, bakey, makey, cakey, takey, cakey, little cake. So you can see what's happening. Each of these words is rhyming together. The first one is repeating with the line number 4 here. And then we've got a 2-word little phrase at the end. So you can have a go of pausing and making one up for E. We did it in the class, and this is the one we came up with all together, which was really close actually to the one that Edward Lear made. Right, and the next thing that we looked at was the Quangle Wangle's hat. Okay, so this was a poem, the Quangle Wangle's hat. So let's have a little predict then. We know that good readers always predict. So given its strange name, what do you think a Quangle Wangle is? Quangle Wangle, look for clues here. The Quangle Wangle's hat. So we've got the possessive apostrophe here. What do you think a Quangle Wangle might be? And what do you think this poem is going to be about? Let's have a look then. We only read the first verse today, and we're going to go on to innovate this poem. Next time, we're going to make up our own version. So first of all, let's read it and see if you can spot the nonsense words along the way. The Quangle Wangle's hat by Edward Lear. On the top of the crumpety tree, the Quangle Wangle sat, but his face you could not see on account of his beaver hat. For his hat was 102 feet wide, with ribbons and bibbons on every side, and bells and buttons, and loops and lace, so that nobody could ever see the face of the Quangle Wangle Quee. Okay, I'm sure you spotted all of those nonsense words there. There's quite a few. This on account of his beaver hat just means because of his beaver hat. Lovely. What do you think a bibbon might be? What do you think a crumpety tree might be? What do you think a Quangle Wangle might be? And what on earth is this beaver hat? In the lesson today, some of the children had a go of drawing what they think the beaver hat looked like with its ribbons and bibbons and making up a nice little picture. So what we're going to go on to do next lesson is we are going to innovate this. So we're going to think of a different Quangle Wangle, a different nonsensical word, and then we're going to have a go of filling in these gaps. Okay, but that will be next time. Meanwhile, if you would like to join my free lesson, we are back in January. So January 5th, we are back every week. Free lesson Friday. This lesson that you saw was from one of my English Stars groups. They will run through the Christmas holidays, and they are on every Monday morning and every Wednesday morning as well. So if you would like to join those, there is a link in the comments in the description below. Have a go of just clicking on that one, and then you'll be able to see the costs and everything. It's really cheap, really, really cheap. I want to be able to give tuition that everybody can afford and everybody can join. Lovely. Thank you for watching, and hopefully I will see you in class. Bye, everyone.